Welcome back, football fans. The Premier League is back after the FA Cup last week. This episode is jam-packed. We've got a brand new update to Quick Filters, which is simply brilliant. You'll see what I mean when I show you that in a moment. So we'll also take a look at the Premier League, the EFL, and whatever else we find for this weekend on this episode of the Predictions Show. There is a game tonight in the Premier League, so I'm going to show you the player props tool for that at the end of the video, and stick around because I've also got an exclusive if you're watching on YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into it. I called it simply brilliant in the intro, and now you will know what I mean. If we look at Quick Filters here, there is a new addition, the ability to filter on competitions. So only find games from these select competitions. Now we are going to do this to find our games for this very episode of the Predictions Show. And we're going to start by scrolling down to England, and we will take a look at the Premier League, yes please, Championship, League One, League Two, and let's throw the National League in there. So now that you've selected your leagues, what you can do is go back to the rules and add any combination of rules that you would like. And to keep things very, very simple and just show you how this works, at first, we're just going to keep things as they are, PPG for the home team between 0 and 3. We save the rule, and then what we're going to do is sort by this rule. So we hit search, and it's going to show us Friday's games by default. We've got Brighton, Chelsea. We're going to take a look at the player props tool for that one at the end of the video, so stick around if you're interested in that game. And then QPR against Derby, who have just got a new manager, John Eustace. He has swapped playoff pushing Blackburn for Derby, who are 21st. He said the long-term vision excited him, so let's see where they are come the end of the season. And what you can do is click on the calendar and then go next 5 days, and it will take your settings, which at the minute we're just sorting by home PPG. And then we see some familiar teams. Birmingham, top of the table in League One, playing at home once more. Barnet, similar story, absolutely fantastic. Gateshead from the same division, they're 5th against 7th. That should be a good game this weekend. AFC Wimbledon against Salford, Man City, Newcastle at 3 p.m. on Saturday. So now you're getting the very best home teams from England. You can go back into the competitions and add some more leagues if you wanted to add the Bundesliga. Liga 1 is completely up to you, or you can keep adjusting the filters, and that is what we are going to do now, because we are going to be looking for some potential games for BTTS across the EFL this weekend. If you're a pro user, I really do hope you enjoy this weekend, having a play with it, seeing what you can come up with. If you're not a pro user, you can use the code YouTube to get 15% off your first month of OddAlerts, which is a fantastic deal. And as I said at the start, that is an exclusive for you. If you are watching this on YouTube, just add the code YouTube when you go to checkout, and you will get access to not just Quick Filters, but value betting, the trends pages, of course, all the alert capabilities, Pinnacle dropping odds as well, the player props tool, which I'll show you. There is a lot to take in. I get that, so get into the Discord as well for all the help and advice and whatnot from me and from the community in there as well. Now, let's get on with this quick filter. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I favour an away team when looking at BTTS. I was going to add matches played, but since we're just looking at the competitions that we selected, we know that they've all played between 20 and 30 games. It's quite crazy that actually League Two have played 30 games already. We are in February. The season is getting into the business end, isn't it? So for the away teams, points per game away from home, let's say 1.5. So they are capable of getting results, more than capable of getting results on the road. We want to avoid nil-nils. Let's remove this rule, actually. We want to avoid nil-nils. So what we're going to do is scroll down to nil-nil percentage. You can actually just filter for this very thing. Nil-nil percentage. Now, we're not going to go so low as 0, but let's say 25% and save for both teams. Now, I'm just going to hit search because we're already looking at the next 5 days. And we get a collection of games, and it's a small collection because we're already filtering on the competitions. And that is, again, the power of quick filters, that you can just add a couple of rules and you're already narrowing down over 100 games easy, into a nice collection which you can then go and analyse a little bit further and dig a little bit deeper, and that is what we will do right now. So what I always suggest with quick filters is you go in, look at some of the games, check out some of the data points for the teams, which we will do in a moment. So some teams might have conceded 0.3 goals per game. We want to avoid that, so we can then go in and create more filter rules. One thing I'm going to do here, and another tip for quick filters, is you can add in BTTS, and you can just set it between 0 and 100, so it's not going to filter out anything, but we can sort by it. So we're sorting by the home team's BTTS record here. So now the games that we get will be sorted, and we see Fulham Forest, Fulham Nottingham Forest. I've noticed as well, Gary Neville, if you're watching this, I know you won't be watching this, you call Nottingham Forest Notts Forest an awful lot. And if you've ever met a Nottingham Forest fan, that's a big no-no. And you've done it multiple times live on Sky, on your own podcast as well. So cut it out. Brighton Chelsea is a high-rated game for BTTS as well. Incidentally, all of the Premier League games are at the top. And then you get from League One a rivalry: Barnsley Huddersfield, Luton Sheffield United. Sheffield United just incredible at the minute, the way they go and just get games won. Same with Burnley. The defence for both of these teams is superb. And Luton, coming down from the Premier League, they are 24th in the Championship right now. They are 24th. They are rock bottom. What has happened? Absolutely crazy, really. And they gave it a good go in the Premier League as well, didn't they? Southampton, Bournemouth. I've loaded up on a couple of Bournemouth players for my fantasy team this week. What about you? This is probably, because I've done that, this is probably the week that Southampton, A, keep a clean sheet, and B, score some goals. Let's hope not. So, as I said, this is not filtering out anything with that BTTS rule, but it has sorted it for us, which helps us in our sort of ordering of how we're going to attack the games. And then you'll see Leeds Sunderland right at the bottom. So we're going to go into that game and just see what the BTTS percentage is. You can see it actually on the stats scroller here. So BTTS overall this season, just 28% for Leeds, who will just jump straight to their results because they've been flying and they haven't conceded a goal in a while. They haven't conceded a goal since the 4th of January. That is 6 games. I've got to say, in the Championship, the defensive records this season, it is crazy. And Leeds are the one that have that balance. They really can get the goals and shut up shop, as you see here. Burnley, they struggle for goals, but they brought in a couple of exciting players on deadline day that will probably turn the tide in that regard. And then Sheffield United, a similar story really. They can keep clean sheets for fun, but they're not exactly prolific. But we can see there, Barnsley 63%. So Leeds out of the question for me. Not going to be betting on that. But we can take a look at the odds and see that they are 1.5, and that is close to the peak, 1.53. So let me take a look at some of these games and get back to you. So Fulham is a bit of a strange one. They're having a good season, aren't they? They are 9th. But when you look at their home form, they haven't won since early December. They have conceded in all but one of those games. And the only game that they didn't concede was against Southampton, which kind of makes sense. It's a strange one, and I encourage you to look at Crystal Palace as well. Crystal Palace got a big game this weekend, and their home form is similar, just 2 wins out of 12 for Crystal Palace at home this season. And Fulham away from home, much better, just 3 defeats. Actually, just 3 defeats at home as well, but of course, a lot of draws in there, especially recently. Nottingham Forest, 1 defeat since early December, and that was the crazy game against Bournemouth, where Bournemouth just tore them apart, and then Bournemouth did it again the next weekend against Newcastle, didn't they? Absolutely superb. They bounced back, though, in some style, 7-0. 7-0. Chris Wood is on fire, and he has not made it into my fantasy team yet. I just keep thinking he's going to, not again. He's not going to do it again, is he? And again, but he just keeps doing it again and again and again. We can take a look at the BTTS table here, and it shows us that Fulham have seen BTTS landing in 75% of all their games in the Premier League. And we can scroll down quite a bit to see Forest. Nottingham Forest, 10 out of 24 games. And if we look at their recent away record, they have kept 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games. And then their last away game was that Bournemouth game. And I think Fulham do have Bournemouth capabilities in them, you know, the types of players, the way they play. If Forest don't like teams being on top of them and going at them 100%, 100 miles an hour, Fulham can do that in moments. So I do fancy Fulham to score in this game. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. I'm going to add BTTS to the slip in a moment, and we'll take a look at the probability model. The model is saying 57.92, which implied odds is 1.73. Let's go and see what it is in reality. So we found ourselves a value bet. It is 1.9, and we are going to add that into the mix straight away. Now let's check out some of these games, and as always, get your comments in, get your predictions in. I would love to hear your predictions for this weekend. If you've got some outside of England, maybe you're getting some for the Bundesliga, for Serie A, La Liga, let me know in the comments. Now to Manchester City against Newcastle. Big game this one, especially for Newcastle, who were in superb form and have pushed themselves up the table. Man City sort of turning the ship around, but still leaking, if you know what I mean. They don't look great defensively, do they? And Ederson, I don't know if he'll play this game, had a shocker against Real Madrid. Not for the first time this season as well. And I think Anthony Gordon could potentially be out for this one. He missed the FA Cup game, and we can see the recent form for Newcastle here. Now, it's funny how many times Southampton come in the middle of a bad run, so you can't really gauge if they've recovered, because then they lost the next game to Fulham. They lost at home, which is not like Newcastle, especially given the run that they were on across December. What a time to be on a run like that as well, you know, because so many games coming thick and fast. If you can get into some form, and if you've got Isak, who's absolutely on fire. Away from home, though, they have been doing pretty well, as we can see here. They've scored 2 or more in the last 5 games, and they will fancy their chances against this Manchester City team, because this is the form across all competitions for Manchester City. No clean sheet since the 6-0 away at Ipswich. So they have conceded 2 against PSG, 1 against Chelsea, Club Brugge, Arsenal, Leyton Orient from halfway, and then 3 against Real Madrid. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what team Pep picks and who he picks, because I think if Lewis is playing, you know, he can be bullied especially by Newcastle, and the physicality of the midfield. So BTTS, I imagine, for this one is quite low anyway. Let's take a look at it. BTTS is 1.44. So what I'm going to do with this one is set an alert on this game. And we go to goals, BTTS, let me know if it hits 1.8. And I will investigate. That will hopefully come in as this game progresses. If it starts slow, potentially, it might not start slow. We can take a look at the timing data here and see that both teams have scored quite a few goals in the first half. There has not been a 0-0 in the first half in any City home game this season in the Premier League, and just 17% for Newcastle away from home. So goals expected. That's why the odds are where they are. But I will wait to see the lineups for these teams on the day before placing any pre-match predictions for this one. Let me know what you think the score will be in this game. Fantastic game. Going to be a great game to watch, that's for sure. Let's take a look at a game from League One. So Barnsley, usually a bit of a yo-yo club between the Championship and League One, but now they are 10th, which is not good. So they'll be hoping for a bit of a playoff push in this last stage of the season. -1 goal difference. If we take a look at the goals overall, we can see that they've conceded 1.4 per game. Not terrible, but they're just not scoring enough goals, 1.33. And Huddersfield, who are 6. So this is a bit of a big game, actually. They can close the gap. Barnsley not in the best of form. Huddersfield likewise, to be honest, and this is a big game for both of them. It's a derby. Huddersfield have scored in the majority of away games there, as you can see. They've scored 4 in the last couple of games, and previous to that, they were on a pretty good run, and they've only lost once, really, away from home since the 1st of October, and that came at Birmingham, which is no shame in that at all. For Barnsley at home, not scored in the last couple of games, and their form has been patchy, to say the least, but this is a derby, this is a rivalry, so things can go out the window. Let's take a look at the odds on offer. I think Huddersfield to simply score is a nice way to boost this one, given their record, given Barnsley's recent record as well. Barnsley need to start picking up points if they want to make that playoff spot, of course. The head-to-heads, we can have a look. Huddersfield 2-0, Huddersfield 2-0, Huddersfield 2-1, Huddersfield 1-0. Strangely, the last 1, 2, 3, 4 games have been at home for Huddersfield. Maybe they met in the cup a few times. That's random, isn't it? And then December 2021 was the last away game for Huddersfield, and they still scored. So I would only really be looking at the last couple of games. There was a red card in the last game late on as well. But Huddersfield to score, as they have done in the majority, in the majority of these head-to-heads, is where my head is at. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. We'll now take a look at Southampton against Bournemouth. Just 4 points in total for Southampton at home this season. Negative 22 goal difference. And honestly, the way Bournemouth are playing at the minute, if we just look at overall form for both of these teams, last 5 games, they've scored 12 goals, 2.4 goals per game. Last 10 games, 20 goals, 2 goals per game, conceding just 9 as well, by the way. So they've been battering teams and not conceding that many goals at all. BTTS in 5 out of 10 for both of these teams. So what would you expect the odds to be? We've obviously not looked at them yet. The thing with Southampton, for me, and I'm saying it every week, there's got to come a week where they put in a performance. And to be honest, since the new gaffer came in, I think it was this game, wasn't it? The Fulham game. Yeah, after Tottenham went there and battered them. That 0-0, you thought, okay, they're just going to play like that. They're going to pick up points instead of going for points. And then it just regressed. They just got worse and worse, and they started making mistakes again. And of course, they got their first win against Ipswich. Big win that. But at home, it's just not good, is it? It is relegation form. There's no doubt about that. And for Bournemouth, the only defeat since November has come against Liverpool. They are superb. The manager is amazing. He is going to go on to, no disrespect to Bournemouth, bigger and better things. Away from home, look at the goals that they are scoring away from home, the way they play. They just suffocate teams, really, they do. They've scored 4 at Newcastle, 2 at Chelsea, 2 at Fulham, 3 at United. It's not hard, is it, that one? 2 at Ipswich, 4 at Wolves. They've scored in all but 2 games. Failed to score at Liverpool and Leicester, of all places. But the Leicester game, I cannot believe they didn't score. I was watching that game and, very unlucky not to score in that one. So let's have a look at the odds then for this one and see what they are at the moment. 1.56 for the win. I don't think that's worth it, just because, again, in my head, and this is a human bias, this could be the week that Southampton do turn it on or do keep things tight. But the way they play and the defenders, the mistakes that they're making, 1.65. For a game like this, I would probably gravitate more towards over 2.5 goals, just in case Bournemouth run away with it. So it's 1.51, the peak. 1.51 for over 2.5 goals. I'm going to add that to our double and make it a treble. And let me know what you think about that one in the comments. And we will jump over to Bet365 right now. So it is a treble. BTTS for Fulham against Forest. Barnsley, Huddersfield to score in that crucial derby for both of those teams. And Southampton, Bournemouth, BTTS, maybe better odds, but Southampton, I'm going with them continuing to ship goals. Bournemouth continue to dominate the games that they play in, and away from home, I think they've scored 2 or more goals in, the last 6 or 7 away games. Absolutely superb at the moment, Bournemouth, so I'm hoping that they continue that. 3.81. Now let's move on to the next segment. So before we move on to the next section, which is Chelsea away at Brighton, we're going to look at player props for that game. I just wanted to show you a new feature that was launched a couple of days ago. Again, highly requested feature, much like the Quick Filter edition. This is the ability to download a custom CSV of the probability model. Historic, it includes historic odds, the peak odds, the opening odds. So you can start backtesting, you can start creating your winning value betting strategy with this data. So you can select the market. You've got the goal markets, you've got the corner markets, full-time result, double chance. You then select the type, which would be home win, away win, draw, and you can select the bookmaker now as well. So download the Pinnacle odds, for example, Betfair Exchange, which has just recently been added, 1xBet, Bet365, William Hill. You can then select the probability range as well. You can set this to 0, 0 and 100 if you want to just get all the games, and then the date range as well. So you can get 6 months at a time. So you can do 6 months from today, and then you could go back and do another 6 months, and it will email you a link when it is ready. Usually just takes a minute or two to process and create the CSV, and then you'll be sent a link as soon as it is ready. So that is another addition, another tool that's been added to Pro in the last couple of days. And again, code YouTube if you want to get 15% off. Right, now let's go to the player props tool. So this is the player props tool. If you've not used it, there is a link in the description, as there is to all of these tools, and it does what it says on the tin. It helps you with player props, stats and bets and whatnot. We are going to go to Chelsea. So we just start typing Chelsea, and we can see I'm looking at shots on target. Palmer, 13 in his last 10, 9 starts, 10 appearances. Jackson, who is out. Interesting selection dilemma for Chelsea. Jackson is out, as is Mark Gui, the guy that they got from Barcelona, the other number 9. So you would expect a midfielder to be playing in there. Maybe Nkunku goes in there, who has had 4 shots on target in his last 10 appearances, 7 starts. Yakubu Minter, he gets into some good positions, doesn't he? His finishing is not quite there as of yet, but he gets into some good positions for sure. What about Matoma? Matoma, 6 in his last 10. He scored the winner, didn't he, the other day when they met in the FA Cup, Brighton knocking out Chelsea. So a bit of revenge on the cards for this game. And I'm going to show you the odds now, because I think you'll be surprised by some of these prices. Mitoma is my pick for shot on target. Let me know what you think about that one. I'm just going to deselect him, because the odds for these Brighton players, who are playing at home, by the way, they just beat Chelsea a few days ago. Evens for João Pedro shot on target, evens for Mitoma, evens for Ruta, evens over evens, for Minter. Belabor, he can shoot from distance, absolutely no danger there. I think these are really, really good prices for any of these players, and I believe one of these players, at least one of these players, will have a shot on target. I'm going to go Mitoma, simply because the right side of Chelsea in recent weeks has been not great. Since Fofana got injured and Reece James has been in and out of the team, especially when Gutso plays, he can get forward, but getting back isn't great, shall we say, and I think Mitoma and Brighton will look to capitalise on that. Ruta for a shot is a good option as well, because he's playing a little bit deeper now, so space does open up for him, and he can hit it, and he does often hit it. Same with Belabor, but obviously he's a little bit deeper. He's starting position. So Mitoma shot on target at evens. Let's see what else we can add using this tool. In terms of fouls, Caicedo, 20 in his last 10, no surprise there. Enzo Fernandez, Veltman, Belabor. Let's have a look. I mean, it's probably not even worth looking at the odds for this. So Belabor it takes it to 2.3. So yeah, the odds are like 1.11 or 1.2 or something like that. Absolutely terrible. Danny Welbeck as a pressing forward, not bad. I think whoever plays in the number 9 position, if it is a midfielder that plays there, maybe Nkunku gets pushed to the left or something, but I think whoever that is will commit a foul, because they'll be, in uncharted territory, shall we say, unless it is Nkunku. But if one of those midfielders gets pushed up to play as the number 9 in the absence of Jackson and Mark Gui, then I think there will be fouls from those players. And you can see some of the other options here. Reece James, will he start? Will it be Gutso? I think for our selection, let's hope that it is Gutso and that Reece James is still a few weeks away. I think he is injured again, isn't he? But Bet365, they're always going to list these players, because some people will not do research and they'll just say, oh, I'll just put him on, who cares? Now for Cole Palmer, 31 in his last 9 appearances. We'll take a look at this and we'll see if there's any value that we can add here. So Cole Palmer takes this to 2.0. It's not really worth it. I'm liking Mitoma to get a shot on target, and I think there will be cards in this game. 2.2, so does the bookies. Let me know what you're thinking about this game. I'm going to leave it with that. I think Mitoma to have a shot on target, and evens, what we could do is total goals over 1.5. Yeah, the odds are not there for this game. Absolutely not. The bookies are expecting goals, and I think they're not sure which way it will go. Yeah, absolutely bang on. 5 and 5 regardless. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. I'm looking forward to watching it, and I think the tip for this game is any of those Brighton players for a shot on target. Which one do you fancy the most? I fancy Matoma. Belabor would be a good outside option as well, and Ruta from midfield. Let us know what you think in the comments, and that is this week's video. If you want one tomorrow for just Premier League, looking at every single game, let me know in the comments and give it a thumbs up. And if there is over 500 likes, I'll be back tomorrow.